Oh, hello. Good morning, everyone. Welcome you to the program. Nice having you here, all of you, on a Sunday morning. We'll start. The time is now 10:59. We'll start in a minute. So before that, I would like to know how many of you are aware about NLP. How many of you know NLP before, attended some sort of training programs? Anyone, if you can just put it in chat box also, that's great. Attended a training program before. If you know about something about NLP, please send a message in the chat box saying yes, so that I can understand how many of you are. Okay, yeah, that's great. So some of you are already into NLP. I do see some of my friends here who are very familiar with NLP, and there could be some of others of you. This could be the very first time. So that's really great. Okay. 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 So Rajesh Kumar said there's an ocean. Yes, NLP is really an ocean, and it's really exploding. The field is really exploding. So many latest frameworks are being evolved. Lots of new modeling frameworks, modeling projects are being done into new areas. NLP is also becoming more into a niche type, right? NLP for doctors, NLP for teachers, NLP for business people, NLP for students. So yes, this is a very big ocean, and yeah, we are niching it down to very specific areas, very application-oriented areas, right? So that's one of my one of the areas in which I am also focusing on. Yes, we do lots of certification-based programs, right? The entire NLP, maybe the basic is around 4 or 5 days. The masters is again 7 days, and then the trainer is around 12 days. So really, it's an ocean. It's emerging. Um, yeah, while they are as a one stream, the other area is to focus on the application aspect, right? Yes, it's a big thing, but how can I be immediately benefited by it? That's a question that is prevailing in most of the NLP practitioners. So we are moving towards that, right? Trying to create very niche areas where a very specific class of people would be able to benefit from NLP. For example, uh, doctors, how they can use NLP, lawyers, how they can use NLP. So that is an area in which we are working on. So I think it's time for us to really start. So thank you very much for your right presence. We'll straight away start here. Okay. So I once again welcome you to the webinar. This is going to be a very short webinar, 1 hour, very specific. So I would request you to keep your right audios muted. Maybe last 5-10 minutes, I will be able to take some questions. So this is more about similar like one to many, which I actually don't prefer. I like to really interact with people, try and get with my participants, try to get their ideas. But this, for paucity of time, we are right going straight away forward. If there are any questions, then I'll definitely answer them in the last 10 to 15 minutes, because the content here itself is, I think it's tightly packed. So I thank you again, right, for your presence and time, and it should show that you being here could really show that you are interested in your own growth and development, right? So uh, the best person whom we can work on this life is our own self, right? In fact, our business uh, in this world itself would be to primarily work on our own self. From there, yeah, we could be contributing to very many things, but we need to work on ourselves. So in that way, NLP really helps us a lot. We will be the first person NLP would help, right, in order to become better. So NLP can definitely help in that journey of both personal and professional development, right? Quickly, who am I? I'm an engineer turned trainer and coach, 20 years of industrial experience. I was working in a government organization as a mechanical engineer, but I was very interested in the human psychology, right? Trying to understand people, what motivates them, why do people do what they do. So that was very fascinating for me. And then NLP happened in my life. That was a big turning point in my life. And then I was happy being an engineer. I was acknowledged being an engineer, but I really wanted to move forward And then 10 years before, I quit my job and started my own organization by the name Excel HR. It's a corporate training company, and then we are doing lots of training programs pan India for leading corporates. That is one of my main business verticals. More than 15 years of corporate training experience. I have done more than 1,000 days of corporate training programs for various clients, MNCs, small, medium business groups. I have done very many. And I have around 1,200 hours of coaching. I love really coaching. Generally, I believe the push of NLP is towards coaching, right? You start as a trainer, but you generally gravitate toward being a coach, right? So I have coached, I have around 1,200 hours of coaching experience uh, from people, individuals, executives, business owners, corporate leaders. Learn, apply, and test and teach. That has been my philosophy. I call it as LAT, learn, apply, test, and teach. So that's what I have been following. And I have been really fascinated with NLP models and framework because I think NLP, in a way, right, classifies things and makes it much more easy. I keep learning and teaching at more and more deeper levels. I have published 4 books so far. I'm interested in haiku writing. I treat haiku, the concept of haiku poetry. I'm sure some of you would be aware of it as a very powerful exercise in self-awareness, right? My mission, I help individuals, executives, entrepreneurs create breakthroughs in their life, career, business. The main tool is by challenging their existing thinking process and belief system. Because I feel, yes, the current level of beliefs and thinking processes has helped us to be successful in our own ways. But some of them may not be suitable or maybe may not be useful for us to going to the next level. So that is where NLP can give us a very wonderful breakthroughs. I also help them to access their own inner resources, right? NLP believes people already have all the resources they need, right? People need not be fixed, right? People need not actually get resources, right? For example, confidence, enthusiasm, motivation, right? Already they are within, they need to access those resources. That is one of the fantastic belief systems of NLP. I strongly believe in that. So there is no need to actually fix people, right? We can help people empower themselves, right, by helping them identify strategies in which they can access their own inner resources. So, as an accountability partner in the concept of in the context of in the contextual framework of coaching, I help them to gently but firmly move out of their comfort zones, right? Because right knowledge helps, but it helps only up to a particular level. Knowing and not doing is not knowing, right? So we do learn, keep on learning, but how do we actually apply that knowledge? That's a very important point for us to really consider. And in that context, as a coach, I am an accountability partner for the people I coach and help them firmly and slowly and comfortably move out of their comfort zones, right? So yes, they have an innate desire to move out of their comfort zones, but they need an accountability partner. And so I help them to gently but firmly move out of their comfort zones, right? That's about me. So quickly, let's go into the concept of NLP, Neuro Linguistic Programming. The word neuro refers to the brain and nervous system, right? You might be aware of the fact. So neurons, right, they are part of a central nervous system, and they are the mental pathways of our 5 senses by which we see, hear, feel, taste, and right, touch. Our nervous system is the basis of for all our experiences. Down the line, in a few minutes, I'll give you a metaphor for that, an anecdote for that, through which we can understand this concept. Linguistic is pertains to language, right? Means language part and how it affects us, right? We think through language, right? Language is a primary mode of thinking. If you have ever observed the way you think, you might be aware of that. It's a mutual conversation between yourself. And if you can really go deep and observe your own thinking, mostly it will be in the form of a question and answer. You ask questions to yourself and you answer those questions to yourself. So it's a question and answer that is going on. So that is what thinking is. So thinking is, it will be very difficult for us to think without language, right? A visual thinking, yes, that is possible, but it's very, right? Most of the people think through language. So we use language to interpret all our experiences and all the information that is given, and we use language very importantly to give a meaning through for our experiences. Language is the medium of thinking, and programming is how we organize and sequence our actions to achieve specific results, and is based on the meaning which we give to the experiences, right? Our actions or behaviors or habitual programs designed to get some results. I'll go more deeper. So this is a very simple, a three-line metric, a three-line format, which could summarize whatever I have been talking so far. So here, neuro, the experience part, the linguistic is the meaning part, and the programming is the behavior part. A simple example, right, which I normally quote in my training programs is this, right? Suppose if I say a long, black, creepy creature is coming inside the room. A long, black, creepy creature is coming inside the room. Most of you would understand that it's a snake. And if you actually look at and actually see a snake coming into the room, the question is, what would we do? Right? Most of us will try to move away from that snake, right? Run away, move away, scream, shout, move away, run away from that particular room. That's what most of us will be trying to do, right? So we'll decipher that particular thing. We seeing the snake is the neuro part. We see it through the help of our nervous system, through our eyes, through the optical fibers, the medulla oblongata, all the parts in the brain that are associated with visual seeing. So neuro part refers to the experience that we have. We seeing the snake is experience. You seeing me here in this webinar and me seeing all of you here is an experience, right? Experience is not the number of years in service. It's a thin slice of life as it happens, right? So slice after slice, experience after experience, right? That's what life is. Anubhavadhara, a sequence of experiences. That's what life is called. The linguistic part, yeah, that again pertains to the thinking. But in this context, we'll be aware that we have experience and immediately we run away. The programming part, the behavior part. So we see the snake, we run away. That's what seems to happen. But in between these two, there is a linguistic part where we use language, right? Maybe based on our past experiences also, but quickly we give a meaning to that experience. So seeing the snake, the meaning that we could, or the linguistic pattern would be, oh, a snake 4 feet long. If it bites, it will be very difficult to survive. Only last week I saw it in NJC. So this could be the linguistic pattern, and using these set of languages, we give a meaning to the experience of the snake, and we give the particular meaning. Maybe the meaning is danger. In one word, the meaning that we give to the snake is danger. And our behavior comes from the meaning. This is very important, dear friends, right? This is, I would say, the philosophy of NLP. The behavior, the immediate cause of the behavior is the meaning. Let me repeat it. The immediate cause of the behavior is the meaning. The experience is there, and we use language to interpret that experience. In this context, seeing a snake is experience. The meaning that we have attributed using the language frameworks, 4 feet long, it could be very difficult to survive, it could be very painful, all those stuff. We use that language and give a meaning for that experience as danger. And our behavior of running away from the snake emanates from the immediate cause of the meaning, right? For example, if there is a snake charmer, the person who lives, he earns his livelihood by catching snakes. If he's there in the same room, he has the same experience. He also sees the snake. He also has the very same experience that all of us have. But he uses a different language pattern for interpreting that experience, right? Maybe he uses 4 feet long, too many persons for my family. The next 2 weeks, no problem for me. So that would be the linguistic pattern which he lists, very specific language which he uses, and the meaning which he gives the same experience is opportunity. And since he has given the meaning, it is an opportunity, his behavior could be different. He runs toward the snake in order to catch it. So very simply, the experience part, the meaning part, and the behavior part work in tandem. This is the hardcore philosophy of NLP. So we have experience. Using the language pattern, we give a meaning to that experience, and based on that meaning, our behavior emanates. So this is, I would say, the philosophy of NLP. Moving further, NLP would say experience is neutral. Let me repeat it. Experience is neutral. And in a way, right, argument is, suffering is defined as argument with reality. Let me repeat it, right? Suffering is described as argument with reality. The more we simply want to wish away the experience. I don't want to have this type of boss. I don't want to have this type of relationship. I don't want to have this type of career. I don't have this type of job, right? If we simply want to wish away the experience, it means simply we are fighting with the reality, and it could augment our suffering. Remember, suffering is fighting with the reality is an argument with reality. So instead, the better way would be to give a different meaning, right? We need to become aware of what is the linguistic pattern we are using to describe that experience. We could make some changes in the linguistic pattern, we'll be able to give a better meaning for that same experience. And when the meaning becomes better, automatically the behavior becomes better, right? A better behavior is the objective of any training program, any transformational program. And this could be one of the best ways. Instead of fighting with the experience is neutral. Let me repeat it, experience is neutral. Instead of simply fighting with the experience, can we choose to give a different meaning to the same experience? And if the meaning becomes better, the behavior automatically becomes better. And the better behavior, this is the beauty of it, the better behavior indirectly gives you a better experience, right? The better behavior indirectly gives you a better experience, right? So when we change, our experiences also changes. So how do we change, right? We need to really look deep down and try and understand what is the meaning of this experience. What is the language structure, language pattern, which I use to give a very specific meaning for this experience? And right, how can I change it? These are some powerful questions that they can choose to ask. So this is NLP in a nutshell, right? The experience, meaning, and behavior, right? Come out with a better meaning. It's I believe it's in our control, right? Our ability to give a better meaning is in our control. And once you're able to give a better meaning, out comes a better behavior very effortlessly, and the better behavior will indirectly give us a better experience, right? So quickly we'll move on to the various definitions of NLP. NLP is a study of the structure of the subjective experience, right? Going back, right, we can understand that NLP wouldn't rightly deal with this experience part, right? In a sense, what is happening out there, NLP wouldn't really too much get involved in that. It's all about the subjective experience that happens within our minds. The experience, of course, comes from the external world, and we need to work on this subjective experience. NLP is not about dealing with the outside world, it's about dealing with the inside world, how we can create changes in our subjective experience. uh, NLP is also the study of human excellence and how it can be duplicated. This is the hardcore of NLP. How do you look at excellence and how do you try to replicate it, right? How can you identify excellence both within and without, and how you can replicate the process, right? So the excellence need not be a chance occurrence. Let me repeat, right? NLP need not be excellence, need not be a chance occurrence, right? We need to have a reasonable control over that. When we can understand the strategy for excellence, right, which we have within our own self, that is where we need to start, right? Definitely we would have been successful, right? We are being successful in our lives, right? That is why we are at this current juncture in our life, and we have been able to do something really excellent. If we can, right, try and understand whenever we are excellent, what is the strategy that we have adopted, and can I copy paste that same strategy in my current situation? That's a very powerful way to look at the structure of excellence. So we can look for excellence within and also without, right? We can identify excellent people, right, who are coming out with excellent behaviors, which are producing excellent results. And please remember, NLP would call success as a process, right? Success as a process. The best chef in the world makes the best cake, but he has a particular process about it. He takes certain ingredients, does some particular processing in a particular way, and then processes those ingredients in a particular sequence, and the result is the best cake. If any other person comes to know, who is really interested in creating a best cake, comes to know of that, or know of that particular process, and if he's able to exactly repeat the same process, he also will be able to get a best cake. So success is a process, and actually it started like that, right? How do successful people are successful? That was question the founders of NLP in the late 60s, early 70s. They asked this question: how are successful people successful? What is the distinction that they have that create the distinctions? What is the distinction behind the distinction? How are they so different from the others? What is that they do which is significantly different from the rest of the people? So they chose to identify three people, right? Fritz Perls, a Gestalt therapist; Virginia Satir, a family therapist; and Milton Erickson, an hypnotherapist. They were very successful in their own domains, in their own fields, and they modeled, right, from the late 60s to early 70s. These three people were modeled. And what did they do so differently, which made them so successful? And then that is how NLP was born. NLP was born as a modeling experiment. NLP is a study of the influence of language on our mind and our subsequent behavior, right? And language is very critical. It gives meaning. And remember, human beings are meaning making machines. Without meaning, it will be very difficult for us to really work, right? We always crave for meaning. Human being is a meaning making machine, and we need to become aware of what is the quality of the meaning that we create for ourselves in our life. NLP is a systematic study of human excellence, right? A systematic study of human communication, right? We'll talk about the communication model, right? Systematic study of human communication. This is, I feel, one of the very powerful ways in which we can understand how the human being communicates to himself and also to people outside, right? Both type of communication, both internal communication, NLP calls it as an internal dialogue, and how we communicate with people around. So those are very important distinctions of NLP. I find this model very, very effective. And as said earlier, NLP is the ability to be your best more often. When we are best, it should not be a chance occurrence, right? We always have a strategy, unconscious strategy, to be our best often. If you can bring that unconscious strategies into your conscious awareness, we can repeat them with reasonable control, and we can choose to be our best more often. NLP is a powerful and practical approach to personal change, right? This is really phenomenal, because NLP would want you to take charge of your own life. And the next definition I really like. NLP is whatever that works. This is my favorite definition, right? So this is why we say NLP is from results to theory. NLP looks at what is happening, right, particularly with human beings and their process of excellence, and then tries to understand what is specifically making it work, what are the distinctions. And then if you're really able to learn NLP and apply NLP, you'll be able to understand people have strategies for their excellence, right? And if you can understand the strategy and make it teachable, learnable, and then that could be one of the biggest benefits we can do for human community, right? Because one of the biggest losses for humankind is experts, right, may pass away without making other people's experts, right? I hope I'm making myself clear. One of the biggest losses for humankind is experts passing away without creating more experts, right? So their expertise would be at their unconscious level. Could they make it? Could those strategies of excellence could be observed, made learnable, made teachable, right? That is one of the important firsts of NLP. Of course, NLP is an attitude and a methodology, right? NLP very powerfully works with an attitudinal change. Of course, there are techniques. So NLP is into two big streams, right? One is the attitudinal change works, beliefs and values, where we work with the beliefs and value system of an individual, and the other part is the techniques, right? Both are important, but we need to understand techniques are like a first step, right? We need to internalize the techniques and go for an attitudinal change work, right? We can't too much keep on relying on techniques, right? As soon as you get up in the morning, you can't occupy your entire day by using NLP techniques, right? To start with, yes, NLP techniques are very, very useful, like a first step. But I personally believe that the techniques could be integrated, and then they should lead to a natural attitudinal change. And always, right, we can find a space for new techniques, right? That is the process. Techniques, attitudinal change, which gives rise to personal and professional development. NLP is generally called as a right brain learning, right? The creative part, the ability to create choices, the ability to really not be a victim, right? The victim is defined as a person who doesn't have any choices, right? So that's how a victim is defined, right? A person who doesn't have choices, who feels let down, who feels I don't have any other way, I have to go through this. So that is the concept of a victimhood. The victim is a person who doesn't have choices, but NLP is all about creating more personal choices. This is one of the beautiful definitions of NLP. I think it's from Richard Bandler, the co-founder of NLP. NLP is all about increasing personal choices. So moving forward, right, my own perspectives about NLP, how I look at NLP. Quickly, we'll finish the slide. NLP brings unconscious processes into conscious awareness. This is very important, right? NLP brings unconscious processes into conscious awareness, and thereby helps creating more and better choices for us to lead our lives. NLP helps an individual to set very strong, clear goals, right? Very strong, clear goals, build better relationships, observe and listen more deeply, and build behavior flexibility for achieving those goals, right? These four things are called as four pillars of NLP. It's called as clarity in outcome. Are our goals really strong? Are our goals really clear? Because everything starts with the goal setting process. And how are we able to build relationships, right? Howsoever an individual might be talented, he can achieve his goals only with support of other human beings, right? That's how it is. So how an individual is able to build a better relationship, build rapport, and how is he able to really observe? And for building rapport, right, how can he observe and listen more deeply? That is an integral part of listening, building rapport. And how can an individual build in behavior flexibility? Something is not working, do something else. Let me repeat, if something is not working, do something else. Right, in the name of hard work, we need not keep striving, right, more deeper and deeper. Depending on the context, we can choose to come out with another behavior, do something that could work, right? And NLP at an individual level helps in pacing. Pacing means trying to understand the other person's model of the world. Pacing is like trying to understand and match, because matching creates rapport to start with. So pacing, leading, motivating, and coaching self and others, right? Very specifically, let me repeat it. An NLP at an individual level helps people pace, lead, motivate, and right, coach self and others, right? So NLP principles, we'll quickly look at it. The fundamental principles on which NLP stands on: law of cause and effect. So our current reality is because of our actions in the past. The past is the cause and the current reality is the effect. So this gives a very interesting equation: cause on the left side, effect on the right side. Cause is equal to effect. So the question that we can choose to ask ourselves is, on which side of the equation am I operating from? Am I operating on the cost side of the equation, or am I operating on the effect side of the equation? That's an interesting question we can choose to ask ourselves. So if we work on the effect side of the equation, we observe the current reality and choose to focus on what is not conducive, right? What is not really going well. And then the tendency would be to curse, complain, and corrupt. Right, that is the effect side of the equation. What are the things that we don't want in our current reality? So that is the effect side of the equation. And then can we, if we continue to be in the effect side of the equation, right, where we choose to focus on the negative experiences and simply curse, complain, and corrupt, and just simply wish them to go away, we might be operating on the effect side of the equation, which is called as a blame frame. NLP calls it as a blame frame. This is not working, that is not working, these are the people responsible. Only if they can change, these things could improve. So those are the blame frames. And if you can move to the cost side of the equation, which is called as an outcome frame. Okay, the current reality is as it is. At some level, I need to understand this reality is because of my actions in the past. So can I choose to do something different? Can I introduce a new cost in the current experience? That is moving to the cost side of the equation, or the outcome frame. Look at the experiences, take control of ourselves, and can I choose to introduce a new cost into this equation, into this current experience, so that down the line I'll be able to get a effect that I really want. That is the law of cause and effect. One of the second principle could be slightly controversial. It simply says perception is projection. What I see in the outside world is my own projection, right? A very simple example, right, which can help bring some clarity with this is, the moment a person decides to buy a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler, he would be able to see so many advertisements around, right? The moment he decides to buy a bike or to buy a car, he might start seeing advertisements everywhere. Those advertisements are already there, but he is consciously or unconsciously deleting those experiences. But once a shift has been created inside, then that gets projected outside. So the outside world could be a reflection of what is deep within. That is the idea of this, right? Perception is projection. What the mind cannot see, the eye cannot see, right? That is the basic idea, right? If you are able to identify something, it means you have the potential to do it, right? If you're able to identify something, it means that there is a potential. Not necessarily you will do it, but there is a potential for the individual to do it. That's a basic idea for this. What the mind cannot see, the eye cannot see. Then the third and most important, one of the most important NLP principles is responsibility for value. I am the sole person who is responsible for value in my life, right? The value in my life is directly proportional to my involvement and participation in this phenomenon called as my life, right? The responsibility I get is directly proportional to my involvement and participation in this life, right? These are the principles of NLP. So quickly, let me summarize 5 ways how NLP can help you. So these 5 ways are very specific, right? Based on my coaching and training experiences, I have distilled this, very specific, very result oriented, and they are very immediately applicable. Quickly, let's go in. Okay, so yeah, 5 ways NLP can help you. Self-awareness, right? This is very phenomenal. How can you become more aware of your own self? Unless we start, right, the self-awareness is the basis for any transformation to change, to take place. Without self-awareness, it is very difficult to transform, right? I would say zilch, zero chance for for transformation without self-awareness. So self-awareness is the basis, is the foundation over which the tree of transformation blooms. So self-awareness is very important. I feel NLP brings in huge amount of self-awareness. It makes you look at yourself as a third person, very simply put, right? It can bring in huge amount of self-awareness in your thinking processes, your language patterns, your behavior patterns, right? So it could make you very clearly observe yourself. That I feel is one of the biggest benefits of NLP. And right, NLP, the next question, and one question NLP frequently keeps on asking is, what is that you really want? What is that you really want, right? Are you sure is that you want? Because, right, most of the times we are very clear about what is that we don't want, but many times we may not be clear about what is that we want. So the entire journey starts only from knowing what we really want, right? Begin with the end in mind. That's what being said. NLP would help us to really become crystal clear about our goals. Understanding and dealing with challenge process. Yes, we have set goals, but right, there is a present state, there is a desired state, and there is a gap. The gap is a problem, the gap is a challenge, and NLP would very come up with fantastic frameworks for really helping us understand that gap, right? What is that gap made of? What is that challenge made of? And what are the components of the challenges, right? Once we understand that, it becomes really easy to handle those challenges. And the fourth way in which NLP can help us really is managing our mind states, right? The question that we can choose to ask ourselves is, how much control do I have over my emotions, right? Mind state is a word which NLP uses for emotions, right? Feelings and emotions. How much control do I have over my mind states, right? Could I quickly, when I feel down, could I quickly bounce back, feel better? Is it under my control, right? NLP comes up with wonderful techniques and frameworks for having a reasonable control over our mind states. And finally, right, really, I think people really want to change, right? Because the motivation for change. In fact, I believe people are already motivated, right? They need not need motivation. What they want is solutions, right? So people are already motivated, right? There is an inherent power of evolution, right? That pushes people toward change. People really want to change, and they are already motivated because they have goals, right? Our central nervous system is goal setting in nature. Please understand that, right? Our central nervous system is goal setting in nature. We unconsciously keep setting goals, right? So we are motivated. That is motivation in us for us to achieve those goals. That is an inherent motivation. What is required is the solutions, right? How do we actually, what are the ways, what are the strategies, what are the means in which I can achieve those goals, right? So that is a change process all about. So NLP gives fantastic frameworks and fantastic insights about understanding, initiating, and sustaining the change process, right? We'll look at these 5 ways quickly. Self-awareness part. Transformation begins only with self-awareness, right? Self-awareness is becoming aware of our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. NLP talks about a technique of disassociation. How can you disassociate yourself from yourself? Look at yourself as a third person, right? This is really phenomenal because I believe only the human beings have this power, right? If you see a sparrow, looking at its image in a mirror, it wouldn't be able to understand that it's reflection, right? It will think that that image as another sparrow, and you might have seen a sparrow pecking at that other sparrow in the mirror, right? The human beings are able to understand this is my reflection. Similarly, they can also observe themselves, right? This is called as a process of meta thinking, thinking about our own thinking, feeling about our own feeling, and observing our own behaviors, right? Ability to disassociate, we already have that naturally, but can we become more conscious about it, and can we choose to disassociate when it really matters, right? Those are the very powerful ways in which you can disassociate, right? So disassociation is an inherent concept in NLP. When we disassociate, right, even as you are having a conflict situation, right, with someone whom you really love, right, even in that situation, if you can disassociate yourself, see yourself having this conflict with another person from a third perspective, right, you'll be able to understand, right, your own inherent patterns, right. When we are able to disassociate, the emotion comes down. Please understand that this is important. When we are associated, the emotion is strong. When we are disassociating ourselves, the emotion becomes weaker. So this is one inherent way of NLP way of emotional intelligence, right? If you're able to disassociate whenever and wherever required, right, then you'll be able to have a reasonable control over our emotions, right? So NLP wouldn't really want you to be disassociated always, right? Life happens in association. You enjoy life, right? Only when you are associated. For example, when you're having a ice cream, I wouldn't want you to disassociate, right? You need to be associated with yourself, enjoy the ice cream, right? When we go for the second ice cream, if you're able to disassociate, right, that will really help an individual, right? So dissociation will really help us understand our very specific patterns and patterns in thinking, behavior, and language. That is the concept of self-awareness. There are lots of self-awareness activities, questions to make us self-aware, right? Please remember, the quality of our life depends on the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, right? NLP very powerfully, right, has a big load of questions, right? Very powerful, empowering questions. And remember, right, the quality of our life depends on the quality of the questions that we ask. So not labeling as right or wrong, right? Inherent, this is one big insight that I really got, right? No pattern is inherently right or wrong, right? There may be patterns in us that would have been useful for us down the line, in our past, right? There would have been patterns in us that would have really helped us to pass in our past to become who we are right now. So there is inherently nothing right or wrong, but those patterns may not be useful, right? So instead of classifying that's right or wrong, good or bad, right, of course, good or bad, right or wrong, or concept that we need to have, right, at a moral level. When we live in a family and the society, we need to have. But one more useful way to be classifying them, instead of classifying them as right or wrong or good or bad, can we classify our patterns are as useful or not useful in the context of achieving goals, in the context of achieving our goals. So I have this pattern. This pattern has helped me to come up to this level. But now, with the same pattern will help me to go to the next level. That's a question that we can ask ourselves, become aware of our patterns, and classify our patterns not as right or wrong, good or bad, but useful or not useful. That is one inherent way of benefit of being self-aware. So moving further, second is well-formed outcomes. This is NLP, right? I would say this is a very specific distinction of NLP. What is really wanted, right? So most of my coaching experiences, right, I have found this very evident, right? We might be very clear about what is that we don't want. So when this question is thrown towards us, what is that you really want? Okay, it's fine. I'm able to understand these are the things that you don't want. What is that you really want? Then we become perplexed and confused, right? We don't know really what is that we really want. So NLP has a fantastic framework of making us very clear about what is that we want. The ambiguity, the perplexion, everything will be blown away, right? When we go through this fantastic process of setting well-formed outcomes. So one question is it a moving away goal or a moving towards goal, right? Do I want to move towards something, or I want to move away from something, right? So this is where the NLP introduces concepts of pain and pleasure. Some of us could be motivated by pain, some of us could be motivated by pleasure. So moving away is a pain-based goal. Moving towards is a pleasure-based goal. Out of these two things, right, the pain-based goal is always stronger, right? It's very motivating, right? When there is a pain, we really want it to go away. But the problem with that is, I want to go away, but to where? A person who is running away from a mad dog, a moving away goal. A person who is running away from a mad dog will run faster, but where will he end up? That's a question that we need to ask. Maybe he ends up with a tiger. Whereas a moving towards goal is very specific. It's like moving towards a pot of gold. So there is a moving away, the pain principle, there is a moving towards a pot of gold, right? That is a pleasure principle. Our life is designed by this pain and pleasure principle. NLP would ask you to take a very deep look about that. Are you moving away from something, or are you moving towards something? Next question is the goal comes from you, right? Is it an internally referenced goal? Is the goal based on your own inherent desires, your deep driving desire, inherent passion, or is it an externally referenced goal, right? Well, one other way to look at it is, are you working for your own goal, or are you working for someone else's goals, right? So that is one question. And how clearly are you able to see your end goal clearly in your mind, right? We call it as visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. We'll look what are they down the line. So can you really see your goal? Can you really hear your goal? Can you really feel your goal, right? In the sense, what would you see, hear, and feel after you have achieved your goal? That's again very, very important question NLP would ask you. So are you able to really, right, after you have achieved your goal, are you able to see, hear, and feel how it will be after you have achieved the goal? This is again a very, very important parameter so that you know that you have achieved a goal. What is the evidence that you have achieved your goal? Right? So this would bring in more credibility into the process of goal setting. This is called as an ecology check, right? When you reach a goal, remember you would have changed. Without you changing, you will not be able to achieve the goal. But how does you changing will affect the people around you in your environment? That is the ecology check. Okay, you have a goal, you change, you achieve the goal. How would people around you? How would they be impacted by you reaching that particular goal? Is it okay with them? Have you built a sufficient rapport with them, right? So that they can also choose to help and support you in the process. And do they also anticipate you going for the change process, right? These are some important distinctions we need to ask ourselves. One thing that I really feel is, without having these in mind, if we make attempts and reach the goal, maybe we might ask ourselves this question: is this the goal I really wanted, right? Is this the goal I really wanted? For this goal, should I have to make so much of sacrifices, right? And how come I have strived for achieving this goal so much, but still after achieving this goal still leaves me with an emptiness, right? These are the questions that could haunt us if you are not very clear about this well-formed outcomes. Third way, right, understanding and dealing with the challenges that prevent us from reaching the outcomes, right? So this is something very significant. I introduce a very simple process, right? The map is not the territory, one of the fundamental principles of NLP. So yeah, here it is. I hope you're able to see the screen. So, by the way, right, this is my drawing, so you have to bear with it. The human communication model. Very simple, right? Very simple, very beautiful. I always inspired, right? When I get inspired whenever I see this, right? So I put 5 arrow marks, the 5 senses, right? Visual, seeing, auditory, hearing. These are NLP terminologies. We need to, right, get used to them if you really want to become an NLP practitioner. Kinesthetic, the sense of touch, right? The sense of touch, the sense of feelings. Both are included there, right? The sense of external touch on the body and how we feel inside our body, both are included, right? One is called as kinesthetic tactile, the external sensation. The internal feelings of the body, very simply emotions, or given a word, right? Kinesthetic proprioceptive, right? How we feel inside. And then there is the olfactory, the sense of smell, and the gustatory, the sense of taste, right? So 5 predominant senses, and they come from the external world, right? External world, the name for the external world is called as territory. So what happens is, right, there is a very rich data available, right? Some people say it's 7 lakh bits of data per second. So much data streaming from the external world. Our brain will not be able to handle all the processes, all the data. So we have Psychological filters, right? We have developed psychological filters. They are not physical filters. Let me be very clear. They are not physical filters. They are psychological in nature. They are called as perceptual filters. Three types of filters we have: generalization, deletion, and distortion, right? We generalize the data that is coming in. We'll talk about it in the next slide. We also delete, right? Our human brain, it is said, is able to handle only 5 plus or minus 2 bits of data per second, right? Whereas a huge, maybe 7 lakh bits of data coming from the external world, we were able to deal only with 5 plus or minus 2 data, right? That's what research is saying. So we choose to focus on what is important, right? We delete the rest of the things. So that is a deletion process involved. And there is a distortive process, right? We give a meaning to what is happening outside. The meaning may not be out there, but we have the meaning in our minds, right? That is a distortive process. So we generalize, delete, and distort. And the result of this psychological process is the formation of something which is called as a map. So map is the result of our generalization, deletion, and the distortion process, the map. We need to understand that behavior part comes from the map. The behavior part, the immediate cause of the behavior is the map. It is not the territory. The territory is there, data streams in. We have an unconscious filtering process. Result is a map. The behavior comes from the map, and the results come from the behavior. Right? For changing the results, we need to change the behavior. It's a reverse engineering process, right? For changing the results, we need to change the behavior. A better behavior always produces better results. And for a better behavior, we need to work with work for a better map, right? We cannot live without maps, right? Maps are an inherent part of a normal human being, right? The inherent maps, right? People say, right? People who realize, people who are really enlightened, right? They look at the world as they see it without any contamination. But for most of the people like us, right, we need to live with the map. So there is no question of a right or a wrong map, whether the map is useful or not useful. In the sense, what am I generalizing, deleting, distorting? Is it useful to me or not? That's a question we need to ask. So for better results, we need to go to better behavior. We need to deal with the maps. We need to understand the process of generalization, deletion, and distortion. Only then, right, we'll be able to come out with a better behavior, not with fighting with the territory, right? The more we fight with the territory, we'll suffer. Remember, suffering is defined as argument with the territory, right? The more we fight with it, more we simply want to wish it go away. It's not really going to help, right? We need to work with this perceptual processes, perceptual filters, so that we are able to create a more useful map, a more useful behavior, and then the results, right? Better results. So the filters are generalization, deletion, distortion. I call it as a GDD complex. G stands for generalization, D stands for deletion, and D stands for distortion. We'll very quickly look at the generalization. Generalization, we don't have much time. I'll simply summarize it. Generalization is very simply taking one experience from the past and projecting it to the entire future. A person who is not afraid of dogs get bitten by a dog, right? That experience could be very powerfully projected into the entire future. Any dog the person sees, he becomes afraid. So in a way, all our beliefs are generalizations, right? A belief is nothing but a generalization. We had a few experiences from the past, and then we project it as though it is ultimately true into the entire future. That is a generalization part. Generalizations could be very useful. It could not. It could also be limiting us, right? There is no question by not living without a generalization, right? Right, generalization in a way is is something to focus on what is easy. So generalization is taking one experience from the past and projecting it to the entire future. All of our beliefs are generalizations. Very strong generalizations become phobias, right? If a person is one traumatic experience could create a phobia. If a person gets caught in a lift one time, that could result in a claustrophobia. So very strong generalizations are phobias. There could be very useful generalizations. For example, a person who believes that he is a very good communicator, that's still a generalization. We also need to remember generalizations are beliefs, and beliefs need not always be truthful. Beliefs need not be truths. Once we understand that, we start taking control over belief system. And right, people say 3 experiences are sufficient to form a belief system. right? Just three experiences are sufficient to form a belief system. So if we can understand that our beliefs are generalizations and they need not be true, we gain command over our generalizations, right? Then we can choose to believe in what we believe, right? The deletion is right, removing big chunks of data from the external world, and then choose to understand, focus on what is important. Distortion is a meaning making process. Distortion is most based on what is important to me, what is the value that I get it, right? So distortions are more based on values, what is important, right? In fact, all our learnings can be sublimated into two things, right? What are our beliefs? What are our values? Any non-technical learning could be distilled into these two big areas. What do we believe in, and what do we find it important, right? Our learnings are twofold, right? What are our belief systems and what are our value systems? This is our non-technical learning all about, right? And we need to understand that we can choose to have control over belief systems and value systems, right? Right, this really naturally happens, right? As we go through the process in life, our belief systems change, our value systems change. NLP would be more about becoming more aware of it and making very conscious choices, right? That's how NLP would help with this, right? The menu card is not the meal, the photo is not the person is not the behavior. Very important. The person is not the behavior. See, all these insights are derived from the map is not the territory. The word is not the experience. The package is not the food, right? Okay, interesting. Our perceptions are very subjective. What we perceive is a selective or not a complete account of reality. We respond to our internal maps of the reality and not to the external reality itself. NLP is the art of changing these mental maps and not the territory. So I would define NLP as an art and science of changing our maps. It's also important when you try to build rapport with people, you need to meet the person at his or her model of the world. We need to understand their maps and meet them there. That is the concept of pacing. Meet the people at their model of the world, right? People have the right to have their own maps. Let me repeat it, right? People have the rights to have their own maps, right? It is their experiences in the past that has made them create this map. They have a right to that. So at some level, we need to respect them. We need to honor them. And the problem would be, right, many people get stuck with their maps, right? They think that their map is the ultimate truth. That is the biggest area for conflict generation. And they also look down on other people's map, right? They go to the level of disrespecting the other maps. So NLP, right, one thing NLP would help you to really do is respect the other person's model of the world. Let me repeat it. You need to respect the other person's model of the world. They have an inherent right to it. Their experience in the past have created that map for them. So you need to, at some level, we need to respect that maps, right? And we need to meet them at their map and then start leading them, right? That is where the concept of NLP intervention comes. So respect other people's model of the world, respect other person's model of the world, right? A person wearing a shoes makes fun of the person who is not wearing the shoes. A person who is not wearing the shoes finds the person wearing the shoes very funny, right? That's how it is. The fourth way is how are you able to manage the mind states? Again, very, very important. So the presupposition NLP has a structure, right? If you can really look at your memories are built of visuals, auditory, and kinesthetics. Visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. These are the big modalities which your memory is made of. You can just close your eyes and go back to your positive memory in your past and relive that memory. You will see that memory is made of pictures, auditory sounds, and kinesthetic feelings, right? All our experiences are simply, right, components, right, strategically placed in visual, auditory, and kinesthetic mode. They are called as modalities. We call them as VAK model, visual, auditory, kinesthetic model. Breaking down into visual modalities, if you can just look at your memory, go deeply within yourself, relive that memory, you will find that you might be amazed. It's very interesting exercise, which I would, right, maybe you can do it sometime when you are really free. Normally we do it at our NLP, right, online webinar programs or coaching programs. If you can relive that memory, go put yourself into that memory, you might be surprised to see some of you are seeing it as in color, some of you are seeing it in black and white. Some of you would be seeing it as a still picture, some of you would be seeing the memory as a movie. It might be framed for someone, right? Like a framed picture. It will be panoramic for some. Please understand, all the people will not be having it one way, right? People have their memories in different ways. The brightness level would change, would be different for different people. Contrast would be different for different people. Some will be seeing it a big, someone will be seeing it a small, some will be seeing it near, someone else will be seeing it far. And very importantly, some of you will be associated with the memory. You'll be looking at the memory as though it was happening right now at that time. You'll not be able to see yourself. Let me please be very clear between association, dissociation. That could be some slight ambiguity here. When you have associated memory, you will not be able to see yourself. For example, when you get a gift, when you get a certification, when you get appreciation on a stage particularly, as you're having that, you'll not be able to see yourself, right? Maybe the person gives you the certificate, your hands go out and you get the certificate. That's what you see. But a photographer who is taking the photo from the others is having a disassociated view. Right? He'll be seeing you receiving the picture, the photo which he takes, the video which he takes will show you receiving the certificate. So that is a disassociated position. And when you actually go through, you might be surprised to find, right, some of you might be seeing it associated, the same experience that you have. Some of you might be having a disassociated experience. Nothing is inherently right or wrong. But you need to become aware of how is your experience coded, right? In what way it is coded, right? These are the visual submodalities. Similarly, there are auditory submodalities and kinesthetic submodalities. It's a very interesting way. And the power comes when you understand that you have the ability to change. For example, if you and the emotion which you have depends on these submodalities. For some, color would be more emotional, movie would be emotional, panoramic, more bright it is emotional, more big emotional, more near it is emotional, associated, more associated, more emotion. I would want to have your positive memories intact. But when you choose to look at a negative memory, you might find, if it is very strong, you might find the submodalities which make it stronger. And you can understand, you can make changes in this, right? For a color, you can drain the color, make it black and white. If it is a movie, you can make it a still picture. You can put a frame over it. You can operate with the brightness, contrast levels. You can associate, disassociate. You can also push it away, a negative memory. When you are able to do that, it really works, right? If you're able to really deeply go deep and do that for a negative memory, change its submodalities, the memory will lose its hold on you, right? You will no more be as affected as you were in the initial stage, right? There might be some requirement for you to do it multiple times or a period of time, you'll be able to see that the memory may be losing its hold on you, right? That's very interesting work of NLP. Another way is creating an anchoring. Anchors are stimulus which create consistent mind states. For example, a photograph of your school time friend, right? The photo of your school, the first pen which you had, the photo of your right parents, maybe 20 years before. Your childhood photos could be so powerful, right? They bring in those experiences, make you feel good. So those are anchors. So anchor is nothing but an external stimulus. It could be a visual, it could be a sound, it could be a feeling, a kinesthetic touch. Particularly, right? If someone touches you the same way in which your father touched you lovingly, then you'll be transported to that particular sensation, right? So the stimulus could be visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and the anchor would produce a consistent mind state within you. So NLP would say create positive anchors. You can choose to create very powerful positive anchors. For example, right, you can put yourself in a very very relaxed, calm state. Choose to look at a positive memory in which you are very confident, very powerful, very confident. I'm sure all of you would be having very confident moments in your life. So if you can choose to look at that particular memory, put ourselves into that particular memory, go back, relive it in its entirety. See what we saw, hear what we heard, and feel what we felt. And if you can choose to focus on the feeling of being confident. And as the feeling surges and as it reaches the peak, you can create any anchors, right? Use your thumb or any fingers and create an anchor. So this is based on the presupposition that mind and body are part of the same system. right? When we arrange our physiology in a particular way, that brings in a particular emotion. So if you can put yourself, go back in your positive memory, put yourself in that particular mind state and create anchors. If you can do it a few times, the anchors become very strong. And whenever you want to have that particular emotion, all you need to do is fire an anchor. Use that particular anchor. I would want you to operate with one emotion and create one anchor, repeat it again and again, right? I would say, learning is repetition is a mother of learning, right? Repetition is a mother of excellence also, I would say. The more you repeat, the more it becomes excellent. Normally a 21-day practice is required, right? A few times a day. All you need to do is put yourself in a slightly relaxed state, go back in the past, choose that memory, relive that memory, see what you saw, hear what you heard, and feel what you felt, and choose to focus on that feeling and allow the feeling to swirl in your body right from the top of your head to the tip of your toe. It's very much possible. If you're able to really associate with that memory and feel that those emotions, it could be confidence, it could be enthusiasm, it could be courage, it could be assertiveness, any resource. People, right? NLP says you already have the resources in your mind within yourself. So you can just relive that experience, bring up that emotion, and then create an anchor. Work on the anchor for at least 21 days. That is normally recommended, and you'll be able to see that it becomes more and more easy. And then a time will come when you simply fire the anchor, that emotion will come consistently in your mind, right? That's a very good way for you to really have reasonable control over your mind states, right? Anchoring is an external stimulus that produces consistent mind states. Creating positive anchors for reasonable control over mind states is, I feel, this is one of the wonderful areas in which NLP can really help us. And the final way, the fast way, we'll finish it in 5 minutes. Understanding and initiating change. And the NLP, right, talks about neurological levels of change, right, created by Robert Dills. And this is a fantastic framework. I really love this framework, right? We keep changing, right? I would say we are definitely not the person who we were last year. Definitely the change is there. The change is an evolutionary process. But the question is, can we become very conscious about the change process and choose to introduce changes that could really help us? That's the question here. So here you can see that there is a pyramid-like structure here, something, right? You would have seen the Maslow's hierarchy. So a pyramid is there, a triangle is there, right, which has some 6 steps, right? We'll talk about the five stages. The bottommost level is the environment. The change could be introduced at any of these levels. The environment, when and where am I? So change could happen at an environment, the level of the environment, right? And then the change could happen at the level of the behavior. What will I do differently? That's a question we need to ask. And as we choose to do a particular behavior again and again, it becomes a skill set, a capability. How and what will I learn? And as we become aware of our own capabilities, we develop a belief and value system around that capability. And based on that values and beliefs, we get an identity. Who am I? And based on that identity, we'll be able to create a vision for our future. So this is how, right, the change process normally evolves. The environment changes, the behavior changes, right? For example, right, when we go from our homes and enter a college, the environment changes. And the change in environment requires a particular change in behavior, a specific way of learning, a specific behavior that will be conducive for learning. And when we keep repeating that behavior again and again, right, on a consistent level, because, right, the key to success is in the routine, what we do on a daily basis. That is the key to routine. The entire distinctions of successful people and excellent people lie in the routine, what they do on a daily basis. And what they do on a daily basis get translated into their skill levels, capabilities levels. And when they become aware of the skill sets, the capabilities they possess, their beliefs and value systems get established. And based on their beliefs and value systems, they create their own identities. The identities could shift. And based on their identity, who they are, what am I part of? What sort of path need I to move to? What is my ultimate vision? Can I create a vision and create visions based on that particular vision? What am I part of? What is the greater good? So these are very inherently very powerful ways. So the thing here that we need to really understand is two things. If a lower level changes, these are the logics of change, right? If a lower level changes, the upper level may or may not change. Let me repeat. If a lower level changes, the upper level may or may not change. But if a higher level changes, the lower level will change. Let me repeat it. If a lower level changes, the upper level may or may not change. But if a higher level changes, the lower level will change. For example, the change in environment may or may not bring up with a new behavior. A change in behavior may or may not bring up a new capability, so forth. But a change in behavior will create a change in the environment. Very particularly, very importantly, a change in the beliefs and values will create changes all down very fast. That's why, right, NLP primarily works at the level of beliefs and values. That's why NLP is set to create very fast changes. NLP operates very specifically at the level of beliefs and values. And once these beliefs and values change, the change at lower level could be very fast, very easy. And one of the very fine ways to bring change in behavior is to work on the identity level. What type of changes can I create in my identity? Identity is simply defining yourself, who you are as a person. Apart from some of us choose to define our identity based on our profession we do. Some of us can define our identity based on the skill set that we possess. So becoming aware of that, becoming aware whether it is useful or not useful, and going very deep below and trying to understand who we are at a most fundamental and elementary level, that could create very powerful changes in our identity, which could create very strong changes down the line. Could also help us set very powerful visions in our life, right? It's also the purpose. We also call it as a purpose of our life. So this is a very interesting framework. So NLP predominantly operates at the level of values and beliefs, right? So these are the 5 ways, right? 5 specific ways in which you can create transformations in your life. So quickly, I'll open up for a few questions. Might anyone interested? Just you can unmute yourself, ask a question. I'll be happy to answer a few questions. If you don't have much time, maybe we finish in 5 to 10 minutes.
Sir, is it possible to set up a higher goal earlier? That is initially when we start.
Can you be a bit specific? Initially, when you start, what could that mean? Does it refer to the age or?
Not age, sir. I'm working as a professor. So if I want to set a goal, like I need to publish or do research immediately in the healthcare.
Okay.
Which I have been experienced many in the past.
Okay.
Which I didn't get chance for another some 5-6 years because
okay.
I have been translated into another works.
Okay, right. So the question, right? Normally we set up. You would have heard about the SMART framework of goal setting. NLP would go beyond and has 3 P's, right? I will quickly share the 3 P's with you. The 3 P's, whether the goal is a positive goal, in the sense whether it is a moving away goal or a moving towards goal. In this case, I understand it is a very strong moving towards goal, right? You have very something concrete in your mind. The second question is it possible?
Yes.
Is a goal based on, does your current environment allows you to do the goal? Do you have initiative, right, to start working towards a goal? And is it based on your current skill sets? That's are the 2 questions which make it possible.
Okay.
Positive is there. I agree that. You need to go deeper, and the second P is possible. Is a goal based on your current skill sets, and do you have initiative? Right? Do you have initiative?
Yes.
Very simply, right? Where a metaphor is when you go on a Anna Salai, and there is a traffic signal. When there is a red light, you have to stop. You can't start unless the green light comes. So you don't have initiative at that time. But there is another addendum to it, right? Suppose there are many traffic signals. You have one here, you are able to see the next one, next one, next one. And if you choose to, if you say to yourself, I will start only when all the traffic signals become green, right? Then you might be taking away the power of initiative from you.
Okay.
Right? All the traffic signals need not turn green for you to start. The first one, if it turns green, you can start. Right? You can cross the next bridges when it comes to that. The question is, right, are you trying to be too perfect? Because NLP would say that progress is more important than perfection, right? If you're able to immediately are able to identify which is the green light that you want, you need to chunk it down the entire process. If you look at the entire process in a big, like an elephant, it will be difficult for us to get motivated. Can you chunk it down into small things? What is the first traffic light? And can I start immediately, or can I make it green? And can I start taking initiative over that? Right? That would be my my request and my suggestion to you. The third one is a goal, your personal goal. Do you want the goal for yourself, or is it for someone else? Right? I can understand since you have been working on it for quite long time. The goal is your personal goal. So the goal is positive. I think it is personal. Only you need to look at the possibility elements, particularly chunking it down into small levels, trying to identify the first traffic light, and ensuring you start once it turns green.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions, please?
Sir, this is Hari Babu. I would like to learn new languages. Will NLP course, help me to learn more languages?
Definitely, sir. I believe that. In fact, one of the founders of NLP, Mr. John Grinder, he said that he knows 18 languages. He is a language specialist. He knows 18 languages. And all you need to become, how many languages do you know now, sir?
I know 3 languages right now.
Okay, then you need to really understand how you have learned that. Already you have a strategy in place. You have learned 3 languages. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, sir, you're right.
You have a strategy. You have a particular, your own strategy.
No, it is basically the interest which I've developed. So
okay.
Therefore, I've gone ahead and read books and then, started practicing myself.
Okay. Okay. So what I'm saying is you already have a strategy in place, right? For learning a language. The
yes.
question is you are passionate about it, right? It's a positive goal, right? The goal is the 3 things, right? Whether the goal is positive, possible, and personal. Then again, right? What can you look at? There is a strategy for learning everything. And you already being a person who already know, I think you already have the resources and you already have the strategies. You can become slightly conscious about what did you exactly do, make it into your routine, chunk it down into small pieces, and then you can easily start.
Okay.
So the more you can become aware of the strategies part, right? The strategies part, that is the key. And how we can translate into routine activities. That would really help you.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. So anyone else, please?
So my question is, can NLP be used to treat people with psychological disorders?
Yes, NLP started as a therapy process, right? NLP started as a therapy process. It has wonderful therapy techniques, lots and lots of therapy techniques. Particularly, what comes to my mind is the timeline techniques are there for a person to go into the past and trying to mitigate the feeling of guilt. A new behavior generator is there. 6-step reframing is there. Fantastic techniques are there. And then using the trance states and programming the subconscious mind, all those powerful states are there. NLP has very big use for therapy.
No, sir. If somebody is suffering from depression and they would like to commit suicide, so can we bring them back to normality through NLP?
Definitely. The main area is the presuppositions, right? The presupposition belief systems of NLP. If you can work through the belief systems of NLP, you can create powerful intervention through the suppositions. We call it as presuppositions. 13 belief systems. Try and reach out the person at the model of the world, right? We need to first develop a rapport with them, right? We need to understand what is the strategy for getting into depression, and there are very specific frameworks, right, for identifying a person, for helping a person to come out. See, the main I would say the main distinction for a person to get into depression is that labeling feedbacks as failures. The person does something for getting something, right? When there is a failure, it's actually a feedback. The feedback says action and strategy are not sufficient to get a goal, and that is labeled as a feedback. So the depression is really associated with labeling a feedback with the name failure. NLP would say there is nothing called as failure in the world. There is nothing called as success in the world. Everything is a feedback process. We have a goal, we have a particular strategy for that, we have a particular action for that, for achieving that particular goal. And when the strategy and the action are sufficient, the feedback is positive. When the strategy and action are insufficient, the feedback is negative. If we label the feedback as failure very strongly, then we would have a tendency to get into disappointment first, and when it is reinforced, there would be a tendency to get into depression. So the main the strategy here would be to label, which puts a person into depression, would be to label feedbacks very strongly as failures. So it requires some level of awareness and the ability to be flexible. If something is not working, do something else. Can you come up with a different strategy, different action? So the person feels as a victim because he doesn't have any choices. That's how we define a victim. A victim is a person who doesn't have any choice. The idea is, can you empower him to create more choices? So deeply, when you're able to build rapport with him, ask very powerful questions, particularly meta-model questions. Meta-model questions bring large amount of awareness. So being non-judgmental, asking very powerful meta-model questions will help the person become more aware and help him create more choices. The more he understands I'm able to create more choices, I'm sure he'll be able to step out of depression.
So, but what do we do with people who have been suffering from depression for quite a long time, let us say 10, 20 years, and they are already believing that they are a failure and they cannot come, a condition called as learned helplessness, and they have very less social support, and they believe that there is nobody to help them or support them, and they think that, even medicines may not work. They may not be in a stage of, suicide, but they are not at all productive in their life for quite a long time. Probably because they did not get a proper treatment. So how do we deal with that? That is one doubt, sir. And the next doubt is, how do we deal with people who are suffering from psychotic disorders like schizophrenia, where sometimes they are not even reality oriented. They are not in touch with their reality. So how do we understand all these things?
Okay, I'll answer the second question first. When it comes to dysfunctional disorders, right, when the person is really dysfunctional, is not able to be in touch with the reality, he himself is not connected with the reality, then it will require a two-pronged approach, right? Medicines are important at that particular juncture to make him connect with the reality. And then the two-pronged approach of therapy, psychotherapy, once he is able to establish a reasonable contact with reality, only then therapy part comes into picture. So it's a two-pronged approach. Medicines are very, very important at that juncture to help the person connect with the reality, what is going on. When that happens, then the psychotherapy part can stick in. When coming to people who are really depressed, right? Let me say it very frankly, NLP says people do something because they are finding something useful in that. There is a positive intention behind every behavior. They feel depressed, they continue to be depressed because they have a secondary gain. They are somehow deep down benefited by being in that depressive position. I hope I'm making it clear.
Yes.
They have a secondary gain. They do something because they have something in it for them, right? Maybe they choose to continue to be in depression because they get the care. People care for them. They can shed off their responsibilities, right? They can shed off their responsibilities. So there could be an element of a secondary gain there.
Okay.
So unless they themselves are able to understand that, unless they themselves are able to understand that, because something you can never change something which you can tolerate, sir. Am I communicating?
Yes.
You will never change something. You will never be able to change something if you are able to tolerate it. So if a person is tolerating that, then there is a secondary gain, very powerful secondary gain attached with it. So all we can do is bring him, make him aware, and help him create choices. NLP is all about creating choices and setting very powerful goals in the future. So the depressed person may not have very strong goals. I would like to work with the quality of the goals which the person has, and I would work out empowering him to create goals. So he is tolerating, the person would be tolerating something, and the moment we start tolerating something, then it will be very difficult for us to change. Fine. So any questions? Any other questions?
So other than this creating, as you said, the secondary gain could be one aspect, or is it that they are afraid to set the goals? Because as you said, they were somebody's scared, or they never felt a need to create goals. So such kind of people, will they be able to confidently create goals after an NLP session?
Yeah, definitely, right? Because that is one question which NLP will haunt you, sir. I use the word specifically haunt you. Because NLP comes out again and again. What is that you really want? Or sheer is that you want? Right? Going again very deeper and deeper. This is a very important aspect of NLP. So definitely when it comes to goal setting process, I find huge value in NLP. Right? Yes, sir. So any other questions?
Sir, I want to understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes we are not very clear with our goal.
Okay.
We try to wander here and there. We think this is a goal, and then we get confused. And do this NLP help us to understand our goal and our vision accordingly, sir?
Yeah, definitely, right. NLP well-formed outcome. We call it as a well-formed outcome. The goal-setting process of NLP is about questioning, right? As I said earlier, questions are very powerful tools which can bring about awareness within our own self, right? We are not very clear about the goals because we are moving away from certain things.
Okay.
Right? When we move away from many things, we may not be very clear about what is that we really want. I wouldn't actually blame it, right? The situation might be there. That could be moving away, very many moving aways. In fact, moving away could also be a good strategy, right? It simply says that we have the potential. Yes, we want something else. We want something different. We want something better. I would look at it as a positive quality, right? Our ability to make a conscious choice. I want to have something better. This is not okay with me. I'm not satisfied with that. I want to move ahead. So I would feel that's a natural motivational evolutionary force that is working. We would honor that. But the question is, maybe the current situation may not help us become really clear. So we need to go deep dive, sir. We need to have a deep dive. Normally, I use a strategist. To be very honest, I consider jealousy as a useful emotion. NLP would say, all our emotions are our friends.
Okay.
Right? They have a message. So if someone says that, I would ask this question: Who inspires you? Whom are you jealous about? So when I am jealous about a particular person, I'm not jealous about Hillary, the person who climbed Mount Everest. Right? I would be jealous about a person, a trainer who is more effective than me, because when I'm jealous, I can understand we have the same skill sets.
Okay.
So jealousy is a very important cue. The question is, jealousy comes from comparison. Whether you compare and despair or you compare and emulate, those are the choices.
Okay, sir.
Compare and despair is one way. Compare and emulate is another way. So I would ask this question: whom are you, a person who is not very clear, whom are you inspired with? Is the inspiration sustained over a period of time? Or is it a fleeting inspiration? That is one question I'd be very curious to know. The second question, at a deeper level, whom is he jealous about? Because jealousy could be, it be a direction pointer, right? You are jealous with the person whom you share the skill sets. That's my perspective.
So this, your 5-day program will cover this one, sir? The 5 NLP course which you're saying?
Yeah, I'll talk about it, sir. I'll
Okay.
just talk about it. So if there are other questions, we'll quickly go, right? I would really, want you to just contemplate whatever we have been looking at. NLP, could really help you out. I do hope that this webinar has been of some use to you. Thanks for your presence and time. I wish you all the best. Keep exploring NLP. There are very many resources available. So please keep learning and exploring. As a next step in learning further, if you want to work with me, I have designed a paid webinar series. It's a third batch. Those of you who are really interested in learning more deeply about this ways can choose to join me on an upcoming paid NLP webinar series. I just describe about it very shortly. This will be an online webinar program where you can choose to access the programs from the comfort of your homes. The series has 4 sessions, very deep dive sessions, very application oriented sessions. The first one is well-formed outcomes, getting clear about what is that you really want, right? Asking questions, becoming really going deep dive, trying to understand what is that you really want, helping you set short and midterm goals, right? And a vision, a possibility of a vision. Will be morely focusing on short-term and a midterm goal. The psychological filters of perception, that is one another module. With the challenge network, right? What is that you generalize? What is that you delete? What is that you discard? So we'll be focusing on these psychological filters of perception, which is preventing you from reaching the goals. It will help you to really understand the gap, understand the challenges, and understand the useful and unuseful perceptual filters, the generalization, deletion, and distortion that is happening. The third is how do you deal with the negative experiences, the structure of experience, and how to utilize your positive experiences for reasonable control of your mind state. We'll be trying to work with at least one anchor, which can really help you to access your positive states of mind, right? That is one area which will be really going very deep. And the fourth one is the neurological levels of change. What is the level of change that you need to work on for attaining your short and midterm goals? Understanding and utilizing the process of change. We'll be working at the levels of beliefs and values. And if necessary, we'll be going down to the level of specific behavior and the skill sets that you are required. We'll be able to identify these areas. So the 4 modules, each module will be working on this of interactions, answering questions within the limitations of a webinar. So the maximum number of seats is 8. The bonuses, 2 bonuses, totally 3 bonuses. One is one deep dive one-to-one coaching session, which will last from 60 to 90 minutes. One deep dive portion, the value for that is 3,500. And that will happen between these 4 modules will be have on 2 weekends. Next Saturday, Sunday, first 2 modules. The Saturday and Sunday after that will be the second module. I want to have the one-to-one deep dive between the first and second weekend so that we can really crystallize the action plan. The module 1 and 2 will give huge amount of awareness so that we can start crystallizing very clearly the goals and the strategies for that. And then the third and fourth module will help you to take action with respect to the strategies. That is what I feel. And the second bonus would be 1 year free membership to my NLP Inner Circle, which is an online offline community where I'll be hosting lots of many free webinars, and I'll be sharing my resources, right? It will be an offline program. It will also be an online webinar series, which are totally complementary. The dates are 16, 17, 23, and 24 May, right? Next Saturday, Sunday, and the Saturday and Sunday after that, right? It will be, and the one-to-one deep diving coaching session will be between one of these 2 weekends. The timing would be 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. On Saturday and Sunday, the timing would be, we start at 3 p.m. in the afternoon and go up to 5:36. Normally, the last batches we end up to 6, even 6:15. That's quite okay with me. We start at 3 and then we go very deeply 2.5 hours or 3 hours. The pricing is rupees 9,000 for the investment for this webinar. But as an early bird offer, you can avail the program for an amount of rupees 7,000. So please note the seats are very limited to a maximum. That is the only constraint. The registration will be on a first come first basis. So how do you actually register that? Who is this webinar for? Is for people who really are very serious and committed. Honestly, it will be there will be fun, there will be humor. There is every possibility for that because we become aware of our own idiosyncrasies, right? We become aware in the process. We become aware of our own fans, right? Our own misconception, and we can have a very wonderful laugh at that, right? That is very much possible. But this is for very serious and committed people. I really want to work with people who are really committed and people who are interested in personal development. This is for people who want to take ownership and for creating value in their life. As I said in NLP principle, right, the value for our life depends on our own involvement in this phenomenon called as life. So if you're such a committed person, all you need to do is send me a WhatsApp message. My number is 9444128486. People who are interested, send an I am in message to my WhatsApp number. Then I shall have a quick conversation with you to understand your objectives and to see whether we are a mutual fit, right? I want you to understand your objectives. I want to ensure that there is a mutual fit. I can be of help to you. We'll have a quick conversation with you to understand your objectives. If I feel that we could be a right fit, then I shall send you the payment link. You can take the payment of ₹7,000. So those interested and committed only, please do send me an I am in message. And then we need to have a quick conversation to understand that we are a right match. So that's how it goes. So I can look forward to meet you in the webinar. Once again, thank you, dear friends. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your presence. Wish you all the best. Thank you very much.